Where to now for Colorado and Coach Prime? Went down on Friday night in double overtime to Stanford. Final score was 46-43. Stanford, not a football team that we're talking about competing for the conference title in the Pac-12 or a team that we had being, a force in that conference at the beginning of the year. Stanford is, to be real, like kind of down bad. And so for them to be up 29-0 against Stanford and then to lose that lead and to lose in double OT in the fashion that they did, there's a lot of, I think, uneasiness in Boulder, Colorado today. But I think we should kind of recalibrate, take a couple steps back, look at this whole thing as an entire picture, take a look at that game itself, and just kind of look at what does this mean going forward for Coach Prime in Colorado. We'll unpack it right now because there's more to that than what meets the eye and what other big CFB media would tell you. Make sure you subscribe right here to the On3 YouTube channel. College football every single day. Want y'all dialed in, okay? So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a minute of what we got going on right here on the Hard Count. Also, make sure you're following me on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Pakel to stay with everything we got going on right here. We appreciate you so much for that. So here's the deal, man. You lose 46-43 like we already talked about. You blow a huge lead. It's almost 30 points. And a lot of people today are saying Colorado, frauds. Coach Prime, fraud. Shedeuer Sanders, fraud. And it's like, okay, is blowing a 29-point lead ever a good thing? Of course not. But what I saw in that game wasn't a fraudulent team. I saw a team that is exactly what I thought they were going into that game. A year one team with a lot of talented pieces that is still learning how to win. And Coach Prime essentially said as much in his post-game press conference. He's like, listen, we're not built for it yet. We're not built for that moment just yet. And I don't think he was just saying that to put out, some kind of big statement for his team. Like, I think he was being extremely genuine and saying, we're not there yet. And to be real, going into the season, that's what we were saying about Colorado. We're like, hey, no matter what happens in year one, worry about the future for Coach Prime. Worry about year 2, year 3. That's when you'll see the real return on investment. Shedeuer Sanders has been more than what was advertised to us during the preseason and what he is right now. He's been balling. It is what it is. He made some plays in this game that you would like to have back for Colorado. Travis Hunter got back in the lineup, went to work, also had some issues playing corner in this game with what Stanford did, throwing the football. Like, it is what it is. It is what it is. And what it is right now is not a finished product. And so you can look at that game, and there's a lot of punchlines, a lot of stuff going on Twitter, a lot of social media stuff about Colorado this, Colorado that. Like, people want to talk about Colorado. We want to talk about Colorado. Like, it's a fascinating story in the college football landscape. But we got to understand, man, one game does not define a team. One season, in my mind, does not define a team. We would have said the same thing even if they beat Stanford. Even if they blew Stanford out 50-0, we'd say, okay, Colorado, a really good team. We'll see what they are next week. We'll see what they are when the dust settles on the season. We'll see how they handle success. Because we've seen them handle success. We've seen them handle failure. Now, I'm curious going forward how they handle this kind of failure. And we'll talk about that in a second. But going back to what I said about Colorado, like, I don't have a ton of, second thoughts about how good we thought they were and how bad they are now. Like, I think the answer, the truth usually is somewhere in the middle of the extreme negative opinion and the extreme positive opinion. Colorado is still a work in progress, and Coach Prime said as much. Now, when you look at the way this game played out, you should never score 43 points and lose a football game. You should never be up 29 points and lose a football game. I think there's a very real ceiling to the style at which Colorado is playing offensively. And that's not to say they don't have a great offensive coordinator or a great quarterback or great skill players. But when you get up 29-0, what is your offense supposed to do? Take time off the clock. Take the air out of the football. Hold on to the football. It's difficult to do that when you can't run the football. Okay, so your leading rusher being your quarterback is not typically a good sign if you're a fan of that football team. Shedeuer Sanders leading your team in rushing does not typically equate to great clock management and killing a lot of time off that clock. Like, Colorado is built to score points. And when they were trying to take time off the clock and when you're trying to throw the football around the yard, if you have incompletions, well, you might be off the field with 30 seconds of game time off the clock, and then Stanford gets the ball back and they have more opportunity to score. Kind of the way this whole thing shook out. So again, what I was saying a second ago, the question continues for me now. I don't question about their talent on the outside. I don't question really Shedeuer Sanders even. I question how you respond. Because again, a bunch of new transfers, pretty much all new transfers from what they were a season ago. a lot of individuals that are now coming together and their team, it's a first-year staff. Like, they've hit some real adversity now. This is the most adversity they've hit during the season. You could talk about the Oregon loss, but I think blowing this lead in the fashion they did is a real look in the mirror moment for them. And they're about to launch into the hardest part of their schedule. You got an off week, then you're at UCLA, you got Oregon State, you got Arizona, you're at Washington State, you're at Utah. Like, the road is not getting easier here for Colorado. So how do they respond? Are they able to rally together, link arms, find a way to respond how you would hope a team responds? Or is it a thing where, hey, we got a lot of new transfers, we're all kind of going to go our separate ways here and play for ourselves? Like, I don't think that's going to be the way they respond, because that's not what we've seen to this point in the year from this Colorado team. We've seen them respond from that Oregon game, the way they played USC and played them tough, the way they climbed back into that USC game, the way they played Arizona State and won that game in the final seconds. Like, I think they're going to respond in that fashion. But again, this has to be the question now, because you run up against so much adversity, and over a period of time, the level of difficulty to respond only increases. And it's going to get only more difficult by nature of the competition they have ahead of them. I want to make sure we say this too before we wrap up this segment. This year is already a success for Coach Prime. We said it on our live show, I believe it was on Thursday, but like, I wholeheartedly believe that and want to echo that again. Regardless of the way this game went, regardless of the way this feels, regardless of the way this looks, I still believe that year one was already a success for Coach Prime. They've already surpassed that over-under win total in Vegas. And to be a little bit more precise here, they are visible in the college football landscape. They are relevant in the college football landscape, and they have proof of concept. They've been competitive to where now you can go out and market this to other key pieces, whether it be in the portal, whether it be at the high school level. You can now recruit with some real ammunition. Say, hey, we got a foundation laid right here. We need you to get on board to take us to that next level, especially on the line of scrimmage. I would expect Colorado to be extremely active in the portal on the line of scrimmage this next portal cycle. So for Colorado, it is what it is. Let's not make it more than what it is. It's a year one team with a bunch of new players learning how to win that is, quite frankly, has a governor on the way that they can play offensively when you can't run the football consistently with your running back, with your offensive line. All right? But Deion Sanders and what he's doing at Colorado, trajectory, I think the arrow is still pointing up. And I'm excited to see how they respond here with a lot of good competition in the conference the rest of the way. Make sure you're subscribed. Again, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Piquel. Get at me on there, tweet at me, DM me, whatever. Let me know what y'all think of Coach Prime and how they're going to respond after this game. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.